Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. It's me again, Jen. Hello! And I'm coming to you live from my tiny little quarantine space while I try not to spread my COVID germs all over the world. I am feeling very well. I just would like to keep it that way, and I would like to keep it that way for everybody else as well. So, we are looking at the Sakki Sakki tarot deck, and we are comparing it to the traditional Rider-Waite deck because that is what it is vaguely based off of. Most of the cards are pretty good about it, but let's see what card we're dealing with today. So today we have the Six of Swords. So let's take a look at the Rider-Waite version first so that we can familiarize ourselves with the symbols and see how the Sakki Sakki card kind of stacks up to it. The Six of Swords in this case, it does have the little Roman numeral 6 up at the top. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 swords on this little boat. The sky is a little more gray in the background, and we know pay attention to the sky when looking at the cards for kind of the easy answer on, is this a positive? Is this a negative? Is this a yes, a no? Is this about shadow self? Is this about dealing with incoming good fortune or kind of movement of maybe something that we want to struggle through a little? But the other thing that represents that is we've got our waves on this side and then it's smooth water on the other side. So we're moving from kind of a space of emotional turmoil to something a little more chill. When we say that, it's because water represents emotions. Now, is swords a water card? No. That does not mean it can't have water on it. So swords are representative of air, the element of air. They typically will be associated with the color yellow, but not always. In this case, we've got yellow on the shawl of the woman in the boat and on the tunic of the boatman himself. So in the distance, it looks kind of like maybe not paradise necessarily, but there are trees and it is nice out there. And obviously, the water is a little more calm than where they're coming from. The representation of the Six of Swords is meant to be that of, it can be very much one thing that I am not doing today, which is traveling. And it can be travel over water as well as just simply going to a different place. It can also be, again, emotional travel, going from a feeling of struggle and ill will to feeling like I'm in a better place, I'm more calm, and all of those kinds of things. With respect to the travel aspect, it can be, like I said, completely on the nose. And it can also be travel to like moving to a new home or a new job. So when you look at this card and you're like, oh, travel, are they going on vacation? And they don't mention that at all. It could be a new job, it could be a new home, any of those things where you are physically moving from one situation to the next. And again, doesn't have to be by the body, it can be an emotional change as well. The Six of Swords also is strongly associated with Mercury. And being that we are currently in the Mercury retrograde, I would say that this card has some pertinence in that as well. So here we go with that ride. Not always a easy ride with the Mercury retrograde. So what does the Sakki Sakki card have in common? Oh, I forgot. Sakki Sakki cards, headless people. Yes. So many of the Sakki Sakki pip cards are, the people in them are headless, which is weird and makes me a little uncomfortable about the author of these, the artist behind them. But, to each their own. They're not gruesome, they're just artistically headless. But anyway, this card is actually one of the few that I think is closely or as closely resembles its more traditional representation. The sky is even that same kind of grayish pale color, which is representative of like kind of that calm or uncertainty. It's not dark enough to be shadow work stuff. It's more like this is a moment of interim. This is a liminal state sort of thing, which again, they're in the water. The water in the front here is not nearly as rapid or rugged as in the other card, but it does look a little more turbulent. But there is less of it than there is on the other side. So they've just kind of begun their journey. The boatman also has 2 people with him, and there are 6 swords stacked up in the front of the boat. I've always wondered why they chose to stack the swords like that. Is it like keeping the holes in the boat closed? I don't know. It's always made me a little nervous about, do you really want pointy objects pointing down in your boat? But whatever, it is what it is. All of this is very clearly the same as the more traditional card. What I also like about this one is that it has the ripply lines in it in the bottom, which represents Aquarius, and it has Mercury. Look at that. So we have Mercury represented on here, as well as the Aquarius symbol, which I believe, yes, we are dealing with the Aquarius energy right now. The Raw Intuition podcast, which I help out with every now and again, has talked about some of the Aquarius stuff if you check it out in the latest episode. The Aquarius energy in this case is about that movement, is about that change, uh, moving things around, revolution, all of that is represented. I really like this deck because on the pip cards it gives you those symbols so that if you are really into like the astrology aspect of things, or maybe you just want a little more insight onto like the meanings behind the cards, or maybe you're like me and you're like, oh, that jogs my memory on this is about transition, this is about revolution, or taking a new stance on something, where it helps to have a few more clues about what is going on in this card if you're not as keen on the symbolism of the traditional tarot. Or even if you are, it's fun to have these extra symbols. So, very similar, a lot of things in common. I love the artsy take on it. I'm still a little uncomfortable with the headless people, but you know, to each their own. I like too that it's kind of got some swirls and waves in the air up here, which also is indicative of a little bit of turmoil, a little bit of like thought process going on. The islands in the distance still have beautiful trees on them. They look welcoming, if not, you know, they're not populated. So this is someplace new, someplace unexplored. So a lot of that energy is in there with the whole idea of like explore something new, get something new out there into the world. Hopefully not your germs. But either way, as we move through Mercury retrograde and as I move through this, I do hope that the rest of you stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. And I will see you again very, very soon. Bye.